everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of Two Tamers Talk. And we've got a bit of a weird combo today. It's the Jacobs. We haven't actually done the two of us on a pod before.
We have not, which is kind of weird, kind of funny, but I think our schedules just never really lined up very well.
Yeah, but we're here. And how's it been for you in the Digimon world?
It's been pretty good. I've been really enjoying some of the new decks and revisiting old decks, updates. There's a lot of cool stuff now, and really excited for upcoming stuff as well. How about you?
I've been doing good. I saw you got a win the other day on Mummy Loop.
Yeah.
That's so super cool.
Yeah. I took a break from that when we got the new Fenry stuff. I really like the new Fenry deck, but that Mummy Loop is just one of the funnest decks I've ever played. We're probably going to get a deck profile up for you guys soon. Check that out. It is a very fun deck.
Yeah, the deck's super cool. I've been messing around with I've been calling it Magna Hybrid. It's more of it plays the Imperial bottom end and then the Magna stuff.
Yeah, you got me off guard with that one because I see you hatch and you're like go level 3 into I think it was like a Lydramon. I'm like, oh cool, it's like an armor bottom end version of Imperial, and then I see a Magna after you DNA. I'm like, what the?
The deck's super cool.
It is really cool.
Deck profile is also coming very soon. Check it out. I really enjoyed the deck. It's been one of the few decks I've had a lot of fun playing this set. But I'm kind of bummed. EX-7 got delayed.
Yeah. I'm excited for this set, but pushing it back that week, I don't know. They never told us why, did they?
I think it's just like a shipping issue. I know we had a big shipping issue like a year ago.
Yeah, well, I'm
for like BT13. I think
One Piece has a set dropping on Friday, so I'm guessing maybe it's just too close together. Maybe.
Dang, that's fair.
I don't know.
But yeah, with the set being delayed, what are you looking forward to for EX-7?
I am very excited for Lilith X Antibody. How about you?
I am also excited for Lilith X Antibody. That card is, and that just like that deck in general is super cool. We get so many interesting pieces for it with like the Lady Devi X Antibody, the Lilith X. I'm playing like the list that I've been like playing on Drissil plays a lot of the old like Anubis line because like Basil and Justin have told us that line's pretty good.
Yeah, if you guys go back to like episode somewhere in the 30s or 40s of Two Tamers Talk, my card of the week is was the OG Lilithmon for that, and I included a little plea to Bandai to give me an X Antibody for it, and here we are 10 sets later finally getting it, and it's a really cool card. There's also a lot of other really neat stuff coming out in EX-7. I know a lot of people are excited for the Dragon Link stuff, Three Musk, which is going to be cool, but unfortunately doesn't synergize too well with the old stuff, but
which is kind of unfortunate. I know like I was holding on to my Beelstar Mons and hoping that like they'd go up a little bit, and the new Beelstar stuff doesn't really play with the old stuff, which is a bummer.
I think you can still put old Beelstar in because you're going to have at a minimum 3 Musketeers typing on your a lot of cards in your trash, so you can get the reduced play cost and you'll probably still play Fly Bullet. I mean, it's just a good card.
Yeah, just good. Playing a level 6 that removes the body is never bad.
But that Beelstar Ace, that's if it gets enough cards, that's going to be a force to reckon with, I think. Unfortunately, I think the card pool now is just a little too small for what that wants to do.
Yeah.
And then there's a Beelstar X Antibody recently revealed coming out in the future, too.
Just a lot of cool stuff in EX-7 as well. I know like the Telecom, the NSP stuff. That deck's super interesting with the like it plays like the Eldradimon and the level 7. I don't know. It's a deck that I fear is going to abuse Heaven's Judgment since it plays like
card's good though.
5 colors it looks like. But the other card that I'm really excited for is Hexablau. I really liked Hexablau when he came out in EX-5 and BT5. And this Hexablau is just like super cool.
It is just power creep. I mean, in a way, it's everything that card did, but better and a little more.
Yeah.
And that new keyword Iceclad is going to be really cool.
Yeah, I really like the idea of like sources matter for being able to like remove bodies and stuff.
Well, it was the original, maybe not original playstyle of Blue, but they really put it on the back burner for a while and then kind of started bringing it back as like here's a little extra thing. But it was never the main focus, in the last 8 or so sets. But getting back to the basics on that and giving us, a dedicated archetype that I think is going to do it well, it's going to be pretty good.
What's really interesting too is that the Hexaball seems to fit in just a lot of other, like, it seems to be like the new de facto blue mega for a lot of decks that like don't have very strong top ends. I know I've seen in JP, I've seen blue flare lists that play Hexaball in their top end. I've seen Imperial lists that play Hexaball because Daikin stripping 3 sources from anything is really busted when you have a mega that cares about sources. So it's really cool to see Hexaball be this like new de facto like blue mega that just is going to get thrown into like a lot of blue decks. So it's interesting to see like what decks are able to use this card the best. Because I fear it's not going to be like the actual like archetypal Hexaball stuff, and it's going to want to play more in decks like Blue Flare and Imperial.
Yeah, it's a cool card for sure. I'm probably gonna end up messing around with the Evil Dragon stuff as well. Not really sure if there's enough support for it though.
The Gallantmon Impmon mix.
No, not the Heavy Metal Dramon, the Nidhogg line.
Oh, I don't think I've looked at that one.
Maybe the Heavy Metal might go in the deck. I haven't really seen the two side by side, but the Nidhogg, I don't remember off the top of my head what it does. Hold on.
Pull it up.
Trash. If you have 4 or fewer cards in your hand, you may play this card from your trash with play cost reduced by 4. So you can play it from your trash, but you have to have like no cards in hand.
Yeah, which is what I think that's what the Heavy Metal Dramon wants to do is get all the cards out of your hand as well.
Yeah, maybe they're the same deck. Yeah. Trash 2 cards from your hand when digivolving. Yep. All right.
Heck yeah. With the today, as on my way over here, actually, in-store regional signups went live. And for those, I did get in.
Me too.
I had to pull over to make sure I could get in without driving recklessly. But for most of the fans know, a lot of us here at DGS playing a lot of the big events. We happen to enjoy them, and I had somebody ask us the other day of and we've got this question before of like what we do to prep for big events, and like what's our like go-to for getting ready for big, whether it's online events like Ultimate Cups or in-person events like in-store regionals. And that was something I wanted to talk about today, was just getting prepped for big events. And what is your ideal start for a big event?
So for me, I play very combo intensive decks, as some people who watching might know. You definitely know. It takes a lot of brain power, which is unfortunate for long events. It's very taxing after 5-6 rounds. It really takes its toll. Very important to sleep the night before. There's a lot of days where I stay up later than I should, and then I have to go to work and I'm dead tired, which I can function, but I'm not at my top performance. So getting sleep is huge, or maybe just play lower brain power decks. There's something to be said about a deck can be fantastic 9 times out of 10. But the consistency side of it, this is kind of related, but also kind of a second point. Picking a deck that is consistent is very important, because if your deck, every deck can brick, right? As we all know, there'll be rounds or games you just don't get to play. But I remember like at Nats, I had like 2 rounds in a row where I just double bricked, and it was awful because I was undefeated. I think 3-0 or something, and then I like had 2 rounds with double bricks. So I just went from a 3-0 to a 3-2 immediately off the rip, and it was not a good feeling. So picking consistent decks, getting sleep, those are my 2 big things.
Heck yeah. I think sleep is super important, unless you are somebody crazy like my good friend Carson. Carson refuses to do anything like get a good night's sleep or eat before the event. He truly raw dogs a lot of the events.
I know a lot of people from, before we had to, when I was playing, Magic at Star City Opens and stuff like that. I had friends who would stay up the entire night play testing until like 2 hours before they had to like leave to go to the event. Then they would just like go to IHOP, grab some pancakes and head over. And it's like, I mean, you get your reps, sure, but is it worth it?
Very recently, I work night shifts, and very recently, for a lot of the big events recently, I've had to work night shift and then get off of work and within the hour jump onto webcams to play the events, and I'm always just like
You feel it, huh?
super tired. So yeah, getting like it might not seem super important, but like Jacob said, when playing a lot of like you're playing for. Well, now with the recent changes, you will be definitely playing for 9 rounds for a big event. You want to be at your peak performance to be able to be mentally sound for the entire 9s
possible.
because, you might feel totally fine, but once we hit those round 5, 6, round 8 is when it really starts to kick in of like, that's when you're going to see a lot of misplays. You're going to see a lot of just like brain fatigue. So being well rested and getting a good night's sleep is super important for just being prepped for big events.
Breakfast and snacks important too for the same reason.
If you're not a breakfast person, have granola bars, have snacks. I like to the night before make a big pot of like mac and cheese and stick it in the fridge, and then like throughout like between rounds, if I have an extra 10 minutes here, I'll heat up a bowl full.
When we were doing sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're good.
When we were doing the regionals in California, Basil, Justin, and I, we roomed together, and Jesse was there and Jeff was there. So we had a bunch of guys. But Basil like made a huge point, like, we need to go to the store, buy a bunch of eggs, I'm going to hard boil them all. And then he also bought like bananas and granola bars, and he had his bag full of snacks for going into regionals. And I mean, it shows sometimes. If you ever have a bye, get lunch.
Yes.
If you have a round 2, round 3 bye for any reason, go get lunch. Your opponent no-shows, eat.
Go get coffee. Go get an energy drink. Go drink water. Drink water is another really important one too.
Absolutely.
Just make sure you're hydrated. Not to the point where you like have to use the bathroom every round, but make sure you're well hydrated. Make sure you're well fed. Yeah, that regional was really funny because I think I remember waking up to Basil hard boiling eggs in the kitchen. I just DoorDashed McDonald's. I just ordered a bunch of egg McMuffins and said that'll be good. Being like not well, you don't have to be eating meals between every round, but just like having something to snack on, having, a drink nearby.
I fill my water bottle every round.
I like to keep a water bottle nearby, especially something that I can like sip on while my opponent's taking a little bit to make a turn. Something you touched on that I think is also really important is Justin's brother has a really very, very like he swears by it of just like, whenever you're playing a like tier 3 or tier 4 event of like, you're hundreds of people are going to be playing an event, you should be playing the best deck in the format. Or if you are not playing the best deck in the format, you should play a deck that you can kind of play with your eyes closed.
Absolutely.
One for me that I always like to fall on is I love to bring Mastamon to a lot of side events, because Mastamon is a deck that I know by heart. I know what play patterns I have to play to set up an end state that I can win through. I know where I'm at a loss and where I can comfortably, hey, let's scoop and go to game 3. I don't feel like I can squeak out the game here. So that's like the like another big advice for playing big events is to play like what is like, the de facto best deck in the format.
Sometimes deck selection is one of, if not the biggest factor. I have done so many events for multiple card games over the last decade and a half or so. And the amount of times where after the event, you're like, man, I should have played this deck or change these card ratios. I'm not saying it happens every time, but sometimes it's like that, It's like you take a deck, you think it's going to do well, it doesn't. At the end of the day, you want to pick something you're comfortable on, that you enjoy, that you can play with your eyes closed, as in like the ins and outs, what you're trying to do, your matchups. And I forgot what my last point here was, but if you don't like the deck, you're not going to have fun. So don't play it. No matter how good it is, don't play it. even if it's the best deck. That's my opinion. Basil's going to get mad at me for saying this on the podcast, but if you don't like the deck, don't play it. Okay, that's my first thing. Because if you don't enjoy yourself, you're going to get frustrated about it. You're going to get bored. You're going to zone out, whatever the case may be. You're not going to be engaged in your game. So I think either the best deck that you enjoy or the best meta counter that you enjoy can go a long way just by keeping you engaged and involved in the game. Like I mentioned, I like really combo heavy decks, and I understand it takes its toll on me after 9 rounds, but it keeps me engaged. As where if I'm playing something like Numemon, it's just Evo swing. I'm gonna zone out and like not pay attention, get aced every 5 seconds, and be like, man, I wasn't even looking at your board. So that's another piece of advice I have is play a deck you like.
That's fair, and I definitely agree. Another one that I like to use is know what your cards do and know what your opponent's cards do. I not only do I tend to have DigimonCard.dev pulled up in the back of my browser. That way, in the middle of the game, I can Google search I can look up what this card does if I might not believe that my opponent's expressing what this card does correctly. The other thing too is
just be careful with that though, because for me, I had to do that one time because my opponent read me the card, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I mean, he was right about it, but like I just didn't realize that's what the card did. I asked him, is it all right if I pull it up on DigimonCard.dev? And he was cool with that. But if you just, tab over and start typing and stuff, some opponents might call you out on that. And then how do you prove what you're doing? Is just my fair warning on that.
That's fair. That's fair. That's like before the event, I like to typically have my deck like locked in at least 24 hours before the event starts. Some people say like longer. Some people wait till the last minute before deck registry to send a listen if you're trying to figure out the last tech card to play. I like to give myself a last like 24 hours, and then on the last 24 hours I like to just run through what some of the more like common decks that are topping a lot of events are. So like right now you would want to make sure you've read up on like what Davis and Ken does, or what's like Mirage Galgamon's like exact wording, and like just like know what the general field does, and know how your deck is going to attack those different kind of decks. Is also important for doing well in a lot of big events. Is like I said, just knowing what you're going to see, because typically by like I want to say rounds 3 to 4 is when a lot of the more jank and more fun decks are going to have been weeded out, especially if you're 3-0 or 4-0. About the halfway point of an event is when you're going to mainly see the top 4 or 5 decks in the format.
Yep.
You may still pair into the Bagger Army player round 7 who
or in Top Cut
just happened to have seen really strong really strong matchups for the deck all the way through. That sometimes does happen, but for the most part, once we get to about the halfway point, a lot of people, especially since you have to play at least 3 rounds to get your prizing, a lot of people will play the 3 rounds and then drop. So once we hit about that round 3 or 4 is when a lot of the more serious players are going to be still in undefeateds and on, and that's when you can know, okay, there's probably a small handful of decks I'm probably going to see, mainly Imperial or Ancient Garurumon or Numemon, decks like those. So having an idea of like and that's part of what I was trying to say, get on about knowing how your deck plays and being able to play it with your eyes closed is mainly the idea of you don't want to have to spend so much time thinking about what your every move is going to be.
Right.
Obviously, think about what you're going to do on your turn. Don't just play blind. But like being able to divert less brain power in a 9-round event to what am I going to do, and more so of being able to watch what your opponent's doing and assess, okay, what board state do I need to see that beats this? Or, okay, what are my outs to this Magnamon X antibody that it's now sitting in front of me? Well, I need to see these cards. those are the kind of stuff that really help in a lot of big events. Is if you can devote less brain power to thinking about what you're doing and thinking about how you're going to respond to what your opponent's doing, that's also going to help with brain fatigue playing through a lot of long events.
Absolutely. One other point I wanted to make is if your opponent has like 4 or 5 Digimon on board and it's going to your turn and, they're all stacked differently, some are tokens or whatever the case may be. Sometimes at the start of my turn, I'll just look at my opponent and be like, all right, how many blockers? What has on deletions? What has protection? And I'll point out, all right, this, if it dies, I play a Tamer. This can't be bottom decked and 1 blocker over here. I'm like, cool. Then I can plan what I'm doing from there. Because if you don't do that, it's a good habit to be in because probably most of the meta decks out there that you're going to see. But you run into that background army player that may top cut at Nats or, Green Gotcha or whatever. So I challenge you to find anyone who can tell you exact card text of every card in this game. There's probably someone out there, but nobody I've ever met, right? And I definitely don't know every card out there. There's going to be, flex spots and tech choices and sometimes an entire deck that I have no idea what it does. So it's a good habit to be in. Just at the start of your turn, before you start swinging, assess your opponent's board state. What can they do? Do they have level 4s? What level 5 ace would they play? Stuff like that.
That's another important part too, especially for players who've been playing this game for a long time. Aces bring a whole new thought pattern to like
depth and layer.
Yeah. Because now my opponent does have interaction on my turn, which is pretty, like, normally it was just, oh, do you have a blocker or a redirect? No, I'm going to, swing through. But now aces pose a bit of a difference to the game just because they interact in so many unique ways, right? Numemon has like 3 or 4 different technically they have like 7 aces, I think, that they can play. But
at least 3 of them are good.
Like blue has a handful of aces that they can play. Green has a handful of aces. So there's like so many, like, that's a good thought of like, if this Rapidmon is sitting here on the board, I have to think of they could have Mega Gargomon ace. They could have Lilymon ace. And they could have like, if it's a level 5 rapid, well, maybe they have Cherubi ace. And just like processing what are the different aces they could potentially have, and what's the worst case scenario here?
And that's why now more than ever before in the Digimon card game, pay attention to your opponent's searches.
Yes.
Before you could just, you could zone out and be like, yeah, that card was blue. But now it's like, okay, is it an ace? And then if your opponent has to reveal the cards and then they have to take them, they don't necessarily always wait for you to acknowledge, or if you give them a thumbs up, whatever. But you can ask to read the card they're taking. They have to allow you to. Mm-hmm. If they don't let you read the card or fully understand what it does, you can call a judge if you need to. But if you see them picking up an ace, sometimes if I don't know exactly what that card does, I'll be like, hey, can I read that real quick?
How does that interact with my board state?
Sometimes it's one of your most important tools is just stopping your opponent for a sec on, it's in public knowledge still, right? Mm-hmm. You're allowed to do this. This is not any means being grimy or anything. This is using your resources, so do it. Just if they flip aces on their searches, even if it's something they're bottom decking, you can read it because maybe they have another one.
Yeah, and that's also like, if you see your opponent on a blue memory boost bot deck at Death X, that's something to keep track of. Oh well, most decks don't play 4
mental
Death X's
note,
anymore.
no written notes.
Yes, we unfortunately in the Digimon TCG we can't take handwritten notes, but that's something I always look forward to. Is especially with online events. For those of you who play in-person events a lot more, you'll know that a lot of this stuff is much easier in person. Especially since the cards are, across the table from me.
Card games were kind of meant to be played in person.
Yeah, being able to like another one that's kind of crazy that like it's something that I didn't think about to begin with when it came to online events until I got to play in in-person events when Aces started being released. Is body language is another one that like
absolutely.
a lot of people aren't going to be zoning off if they have interaction on your turn. They're going to be waiting for, when am I able to play this card? And like there's little stuffs that like you'll be able to pick up on over
Well,
there.
you and I both come from playing Magic before this game came out. We both know what it's like to, bluff a counter spell.
Yes. So body language is like a big one that does not exist in online events.
Yeah.
I cannot
very
I cannot look my opponent in the face and like try to get a read on if he actually
Very
has
difficult.
an ace or not. For the most part, you're just playing blind and hoping for the best.
Sometimes I'll just, push out, haven't started anything for my turn yet. If I think they have an ace, sometimes I'll just like swing, just like turn a card sideways and be like, show me the ace.
Please show me the card that
Let's get this out of the way,
Yeah, there's so many little tidbits to playing online events and big events, but putting in the necessary prep work and stuff can lead to seeing more success in playing big events, which is obviously what we all like to do is do better in big events.
Take your time on your plays, not slow playing per se, but maybe take the time to think, okay, if I do this, how's that going to affect him? How does he out it? Try to think a little bit ahead in that aspect, as well as maybe like if your turn's relatively simple, you can plan out the entire turn realistically before your turn starts, depending on how much RNG goes into that turn. So obviously, progress board state in a reasonable amount of time, blah, blah, blah. As the judge, I have to say that. But don't play too fast that you forgot to mind link and now you only get half your effect. Right? Sometimes take a breath between every action.
Yeah, I think it's a really good one. I think the last one I want to say is it's fairly hard for newer players to like understand this one a lot of times, but know when to concede.
Conceding is a tool.
We only have 50 to 55 minutes to play this round, and if we're if you're in game one and it's pretty apparent that there's no possible way, obviously, for a lot of players, I know myself, I like to play at least to all of my outs. I like to assess, okay, if I see these cards in this order, I'm able to come back from this position. But that is something to like learn, or at least a tool to learn, is knowing when you can't come back. You're staring down 8 swings next turn. You don't play any security bombs. You're hatching this turn and you're at 1 memory. Maybe it's okay to scoop and go next game, because there's nothing worse than going to time in the middle of like game 2 after playing a long-winded game 1 where you eventually lost, and then going to time game 2 and losing 1-0 your opponent. When you could have potentially, obviously there are some games that are a grind fest and it comes down to the last card in your deck, or there are some games where you were just, I was just 1 card away from finding that out. But I like to think there are also a lot of games where it's a little more foretelling much earlier in the turn, or there's like, earlier in the game, I'm able to spot, hey, I can't really come back from this point. I'd much rather, maybe get a much stronger start and win game 2, and then we fight it out in game 3, because you do have plenty of time. 55 minutes is plenty of time to play 3 games of Digimon. But if if a game is going exceedingly long and there seems to be no out to be able to win, or a lot of times if your opponent is building up the Imperial stack that's going to wipe your whole board and you're at 0 security, when they show the Imperial, maybe go, hey, I see you have the win. I can go next. We can go next. Just because, like, while you do have plenty of time, even those like 3 to 4 minutes saved by just like recognizing, hey, I'd much rather go to a next game, or hey, we can go to game 3. It's going to save you a lot of time in the end, and it's going to save a lot of headaches.
And arguably more importantly, you made very good points. I'm not trying to discount those, but just as important at least is having time to, fill your water bottle, go to the bathroom between rounds without having to, rush and forget stuff or whatever the case may be.
That's true too.
I think that's important. But at the same time, it's kind of sometimes you don't want to scoop too early either, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely not trying to say to scoop too early.
Yeah.
You should like we said with knowing your deck, you should know what your deck does, and you should know how your deck interacts with your opponents. So obviously, if you're like, oh, if I see HPD, I can win this turn. If I don't, I lose.
I mean, I've had a round where, you know, I'm going second for game one. I open on my hand, it's bad, I mulligan, and it's just as bad, worse, or, you know, unplayable to some extent. But my opponent goes first. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll top deck something, right? I draw not really anything. I play like an Analog Youth or Memory Boost or whatever the case, find like absolutely nothing still. I have scooped game one on turn one before a few times.
It happens.
Sometimes it is almost sometimes just better to cut your losses. Not saying you'll never draw out of it, but if your opponent God hands, you know, yellow vax before, you know, the restrictions, you know, they go pat them on in the back, play TK, you see them stack the perfect Angemon, my deck's full of viruses, and all I have for my turn is a wisdom training and
hard play a 5 and pass.
Yeah. And then they, you know, out it and I have nothing. I mean, that's might not be the point of no return, but it's an uphill battle from there for the rest of the game to where I could just go to game two, have a better start, as you mentioned, and maybe even they'll have a slightly worse start. I mean, you're playing on the back, right? Because you're behind, but yellow vax, especially in this example, their games take a long time. So if you grind that out and they get game one, like you mentioned, game two, you might go to time in game two, or you get game two and then suddenly it's a draw because time in game three. So sometimes it's not always. Sometimes it's good to, you know, try to get that those extra games in.
And this is stuff that like comes a little more easy as you play in more like big events and play in more events where like there are more stakes on the line. Those having that knowledge of like being able to tell, oh, this is a point I can't win, or oh, this is a point I can very much win, although it seems, you know, I may be staring down what looks like a doom board, but I do have at least a couple more turns. That's just stuff that comes with practicing, that comes with playing your deck a lot. And I guess like the moral of the story is just like understand what your, you know your deck, know your routes, and be able to play to your best ability. But don't be afraid to be able to concede when there's a point of no return.
Now, playing devil's advocate here, though, if you play 3 copies of Crimson Blaze, there's 0 in your trash, 1 in your hand, and your opponent has, you know, a 4-wide board that they're going to swing at you, and you have 3 security, that I would play out. Because if one of those Crimson Blaze is in your security, you suddenly don't lose.
Yeah.
So,
and
that's why it's important to know when to and not to.
Yes, and that's like a good part too, is knowing your deck, knowing how many 4s you play, or how many 5s you play, or how many copies of this mega that I play in my deck. If I've bottom 2 and one's in my trash, I think of, oh, I only have one more that I can realistically see without digging a whole bunch. I need to play some boosts and I need to play some searches. If you're staring down a board of 6 rookies and you haven't seen any Crimson Blazes and you've went through half your deck, you can wait that one out easily.
You're fine.
Another one, I think, like my actual last one, and this is I think this is actually a really big one that a lot of players have problem with. Do not be afraid to call for a judge. If you don't understand how an interaction works, if you suspect something fishy is going on, or if you just simply need help, call for a judge. Yeah. Some people, especially in this is funny because this is more of a problem with in-person events, and a little bit too with online events too, of just being worried about like, oh, if I call a judge, I'm worried we might go to time. Most of the time, judges are going to give you a time extension, but do not be afraid to call for a judge. Even if it's something simple as telling your opponent, hey, I don't understand how this interaction works, I'd rather call a judge in here, because do not assume that your opponent is lying to you every interaction. But sometimes, even in big events, some players don't know how cards work, and some players have misread cards.
It's very easy. Some of the rules in Digimon are very easy to get wrong.
So
I will admit,
if you don't know how a card works, college judging, there's nothing wrong with setting your hand down and waiting for a judge to come in. And even if you were just reiterating that what your opponent said is right, or reiterating what you said is right, it never hurts to just, get that confirmation and get that peace of mind. But it's something that a lot of players have a hard time with. Yeah.
And like misplays are grounds to call a judge in terms of like, I accidentally drew 2 cards, or I knocked over the top card of my deck and, I saw it, or something like that. Those are definitely times where you should call a judge. A lot of people can, kind of resolve that at the table and everyone's happy. So if everyone's happy, whatever. But the correct answer technically is call a judge for, I accidentally flipped over the top card of my deck and stuff like that. I don't remember where I was going with that, but call a judge if you think you need them or you want them or whatever. we don't mind.
Alrighty. Yeah, I think we've been
We
in our
talked more
soapbox
enough
enough
about
to
that, yeah.
talk about playing in big events. For those of you who don't know, we've been getting a lot of the BT19 spoilers recently because for the last few sets this year, we're going to be, as we're getting ready, as we're prepping for our merger with JP, we're going to be doing very similar to the special release of BT 1.0 and 1.5, which was sets 1, 2, and 3 combined into 2 sets. We're doing something very similar for 18, 19, and 20. Or it might just be 19 and 20. I'm not sure.
Wait, they're combining 3 sets.
So it should be 18, 19, 20.
Yeah, because I think when we get 20 and it'll be half of whatever, and then that'll be the same time Japan gets 20, I think is the plan.
Yeah, because that's the plan. Anyways, we've been getting a lot of spoilers for them, and so
there's some cool stuff.
Stock prices are card prices have been going crazy.
Stonks.
Is there any card that you have seen spoiled recently that you'd like to talk about or bring up as just this card really caught my eye, or this archetype that's getting support?
I've never really played Machine Dramon, but my cousin's getting into the game and he's been kind of picking it up. So like Machine Dramon's on the brain, but the Chimeramon on deletion play a machine, and then you can get the one where you tuck and gain 5 or whatever. And I mean, obviously there's a machine in it with right next to it on the reveals that also works really well. And then we're getting a Zed Millennium on. We're already getting a Moon Millennium on, which I just love the design of as a Digimon. Moon Millennium on is going to be really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of excited for a lot of that stuff.
Also, that Chimeramon on play when Digivolving deletes a level 3, level 4, and level 5.
Well, you're thinking of this like BT17 one. The BT19 one is delete one of yours, delete one of theirs.
Oh, that might be what I'm thinking.
Which
of.
can then delete itself to activate its on deletion to play the machine. So that's going to be wild.
Oh, not Chimeramon, I think. Level 5.
Yeah, no. So the BT19 Chimeramon is like delete one of your Digimon, delete one of theirs. But there is a like delete kind of similar to like a Levy X effect. There's also, I think, a Chimera that does that in like 17 or 18.
Oh.
Not 17. We're in 18. I don't know.
Anyways.
Because it's in the set with the Moon Millennium on, but the Zed Millennium on set has this other one.
The play machine one. I know as I saw the card and I was like, that's pretty strong for level 5.
They're giving some cool stuff. That stuff's going to be really neat.
For me, Lucemon X Antibody kind of got spoiled recently, and that card is crazy.
I love the art on this too.
Yeah. He's catching Jesmon X Antibodies.
Yeah.
Or Jesmon GX's sword in his hand.
Yeah, and he almost looks like a sphinx or something.
Card's super cool. Also, it was really funny. At the time the card got spoiled, I think Basil in one of our chats had been like, how are we playing this, like these Lucemons for free? And I had shown Dead or Alive, which is a card from BT7, which is like an 8-cost purple option that like plays a Lucemon from your trash if you meet a certain
level
requirement.
5, or if you have 10 or more cards in trash, play a Lucemon.
But then they showcased a 7-drop purple yellow that does like everything that card does, but like better in every way. It was very funny that I had been like, oh, we get to probably play this card, and they showed like just a better version. I was like, never mind, we'll play that one instead.
I was hyped
that
for
much better.
my pre-release Dead or Alives. I was hyped for those to go up in value, but then now they're going to go actually down.
But Lucemon X Antibody looks super cool. I was just slightly frustrated because this is like the last week I'd like finished paying a bunch of my bills. I had like another paycheck that was going to hit on like Thursday or Friday, and I was like, okay, when this paycheck hits, I'm gonna pick up my EX6 Lucimons. I had been like putting it off, and I was like, I want to pick them up before like EX-7 BT18 comes out, and when I think they'll go up in price. But then they spoiled this card, and they're like $50 a piece for the base rarities, and I was like, well, shoot. I guess I should have been a little faster with it.
Yep. And we got upcoming Blue Flare stuff, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah. The Blue Flare stuff looks cool. I know a good buddy of ours is a really big Shoutmon fan, and so he's been really excited for the... I don't think it's Shout 7 that we're getting this set. I think it's the...
There's like a Cross E6S or something.
The super big Megazord is the one that we're getting this set. Anyways, yeah. BT19 looks super cool. BT18 looks super cool. We've been getting a very steady release of spoilers recently, and another one I'm really excited for is the Lord Nightmon X Antibody. Although the Lord Nightmon Ace that we got spoiled for BT18, I think I was kind of bummed at being purple black, as I really liked the BT5 Lord Nightmon deck. And I mean, I have my Nightmon promos from the online regional from that year. I have those. I have my Lord Nightmons, the event pack ones. Like, I've had these, and I've just been like, they've just been sitting in a binder waiting for the day that we get a Lord Nightmon Ace or a Lord Nightmon X. And then all this stuff is like, the Ace doesn't play with the deck at all. And I was like, well, I just don't know if we're ever going to get it. But this new Lord Nightmon, the Lord Nightmon X Anybody, totally plays with the old stuff. And I'm really excited. It's going to be fun to brew.
I think it's kind of neat how they kind of do branch out sometimes in terms of it was a yellow deck, now it's a purple deck. But sometimes it can also be frustrating, like I want to play the yellow deck. But in a way, it's kind of arguably, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but it is kind of a good way to help with power creep in the fact that Lord Knight in BT5, right, was top deck, hands down. But if that deck was playable again and then caught up to, like we gave it one or two new lions, that deck would probably be top deck again. I'm going to be real. So by making, a purple one that's similar, or, even if it's completely different, is a cool way to like keep it around, and then without, over tuning anything. And then eventually, we've seen it before, they'll find some way to kind of somewhat combine the two, maybe.
Yeah. And that's another thing too, of just like the way like the color pie works for Digimon, and like we have like so many different like megas that like start off in one color but ending up in a lot of other colors.
It'll either change or be a two color. Or
funny enough, the first examples that I was thinking of is Titamon from BT1 is now a very historically purple Digimon, and then Nidhoggmon was also a green level 6 for its first iteration, and is BT4? Now all of them are now purple. So I don't know what the story is.
Well, it's because
green 6 is turning into purple 6s.
The deck's died, right? The deck is dead, so it's in the trash. So purple's bringing it back. Yeah, that's it.
I get it. All right, let's jump to the Q&A. Let's answer some fan questions. So last week we weren't really sure where we were at. We answered a couple at random. We asked you guys to kind of repost stuff and give us some new ones. You guys listen. We have a couple. Once again, if you feel your question's been skipped, or we didn't give you a sufficient answer, or you have more details because we misinterpreted it, feel free anytime, repost those questions, give us new ones. We love doing this segment. So without further ado, our first question is Dankness, which is one of our local players. He says, if you could change one ruling or mechanic, what would it be and why? An example he gives is on-play effects happening under minus blankets like Ruin mode. His personal thing is he thinks decoy should stop bounce effects. What would you change? I have an answer, and it's not one anyone's tracking but me. I think one that'd be interesting is like exploring how like state-based mechanics work again, or stuff dying from like DP minusing a lot of times. That's what makes like DP minus so good a lot of times, is there's not much like counterplay around it, and a lot of times it doesn't trigger like, oh, when this is deleted by an effect, this happens. A lot of times those don't trigger because they're not dying by an effect. They're dying by state-based game effects. So I'd be interested in like changing that mechanic to where like getting your DP reduced to 0. Maybe it does trigger some of those effects.
So
maybe.
I do want to kind of just tack on something here. Bandai, this is not their only game, and I play and judge for other games as well for Bandai. One Piece, you can have negative power and be on board. Dragon Ball Fusion World, I don't know about Supercard game, but in Fusion World, at 0 power, it's trashed. It's not our equivalent of deleted, which they call KO. Mm-hmm. So on to like using Fusion World rulings, it wouldn't even be deleted. It would just be gone. Just put it in the trash. So I think that's Bandai is doing something different in each game. Revising the rules around DP minus would be good. I do think it should be a form of removal in this game. That I agree with. But as it's written now, as you mentioned, like can't be deleted by opponent's effects. Cool. It's being deleted by game rules. So that is one of the reasons DP minus is arguably one of the better forms of removal, but you can't deny at the same time it's not always the easiest. Yeah. Sometimes it is, right? Fenry says minus 16, done. Sometimes it's all right, minus 2, minus 2, minus 4, minus 4, minus 6, done. So, I mean, there is an argument that it's balanced in that aspect.
Yeah, I agree.
But Shine Gray Ruin mode should just be banned.
Don't even restrict it. Just get rid of the card.
Well, I think when that card first came out and, someone ruin modes you and you're like, okay, I'm going to play Digimon, on play search, it dies, whatever. They're like, oh no, you don't get the on play effect.
Yeah, that is something. Like the Digimon doesn't live long enough to see its on play effects.
So the reason for it stems from a lot of Digimon rulings, comparing it to something like, let's say, you have an effect that says when your opponent's Digimon attacks, right? They attack. It triggers your effect, and when attacking effects simultaneously, turn player resolves first. Mm-hmm. If they have an effect that says delete one of your opponent's Digimon, and it deletes that Digimon that had the effect, you no longer have that effect. It's the exact same reasoning, effectively, why you don't get on plays under Ruin mode, right? The Digimon's no longer in the area where the ability is triggering and resolving. So the only way to change that would be without rewriting a bunch of the stuff, because the counterplay to aces or when opponent's Digimon attacks effects is when attacking delete Digimon. The only way around that would be to change on plays so that they would be able to trigger from trash or something to that extent.
That's fair.
I don't think would necessarily break the game in any way. Yeah, I think that'd be a good one. The ruling I would change, though, I don't know why this one gets me so like. I don't want to say upset, but I hate this ruling.
Can I guess it?
Yeah, I'm sure you can.
Is it about certain DP thresholds still being able to check security?
No, it is not actually.
Oh,
it is revealing tokens before the round. Why is that a rule? I understand like when you use a token, you need it to be there's a whole list of restrictions about tokens on the rules about like it can't be the same sleeves as your deck, it can't be like cards from your trash flipped over, anything like that. These all make sense, right? But when I make a token, like again, we both came from Magic, right? I make a token, I can put literally anything on the battlefield and say, this is this, do you agree? And if they agree, that's what it is. And you have printed ones, you have things you can write on, whatever the case may be. Why do I have to show them before the game starts? All that does is give me a disadvantage. My opponent now knows I'm playing Diaboromon or Lilith or Lady Devi X Antibody or whatever the case may be. I don't think it's a good rule.
That's fair. I think another one too that is super interesting is I think just like, I guess this isn't a ruling, but to piggyback on that one, I think tokens need to be much more accessible.
Like more decks have them or easier to get them?
Just easier to get them. For the longest time, Diaboromon tokens like didn't exist in real life, as well as there are like to this day a lot of Digimon that make tokens that we just don't have the tokens for.
Yep.
I like a big one too is the Sendromon, the puppet starter deck that we get coming up this set. The level 5s and the level 6s all make these 3K rookie yellow Digimon that have on deletion give -3k. Those tokens don't exist. But like even the starter deck that creates these tokens doesn't come with the tokens. And yet if I want to play Syndrome at an event, I have to, present at the start of the game, hey, these are my tokens.
Yeah. These are my Syndrome tokens. Guess what I'm playing?
So like I think that like it doesn't have to do with rulings, but I really think that tokens need to be just much more accessible because
agree. Like if you go to the website where you can find all the rulings and erratas and ban lists, whatever website that is, I don't know off the top of my head, which I probably should. There's a little spot where it says tokens. And if you click on it, there's a drop down where it shows 2 tokens. One's Diaboromon and the other's just blank. And it has like what token means, what you can't do with token, and then a blank spot for you to write in the name and the level. And it's like, is this really the best we can do? Like, you want me to? The correct answer is print those off.
Yeah,
that's what Bandai wants us to do, and I don't think that's a good policy, especially as we're getting, as you mentioned, more effects doing this.
And just like with online events, it's sometimes really difficult. A little fun fact for year 1 Nats for Digimon, we were in EX-1. I brought Diaboromon, and in order to play Diaboromon for the event, very interesting. I didn't have to. I don't think I had to reveal my tokens. If I did,
I don't think anyone actually knows that that's a rule. Because no one does that at a local level, and I don't enforce that at a local level. I'll be honest with you, because I think it's a terrible rule.
I think I must have had to show tokens. But
I don't know.
For year 1 Nats, I played Diaboromon and EX-1, and the only tokens that existed at the time were like the print off tokens.
Yep.
So I printed off like the sheet of paper, and I cut out the tokens, and I stapled them to Digimon cards and put them in sleeves so that I could at least
slide them in with it.
No. I stapled them specifically. Okay. I stapled them to the BT6 Gabumon because Gabumon was the best deck in the format at the time. So I stapled them to Gabumons and then put them in sleeves.
Mad lad.
Just because we didn't have anything, and the only Diaboromon tokens that actually existed on cardboard there was a judge. From Judge Pack 1 or 2, I think there were Diaboromon tokens, and then the secret layer, the P Bandai tokens and the Judge tokens are the only tokens that exist, and that's incredible for a card game to not have not be able to represent the Digimon that you were creating seemingly out of nowhere. It's kind of crazy. Especially because we continue to get more and more Digimon who create tokens, especially the Leviamon line, which creates tokens under your opponent's control. And there's no way to.
But you have to reveal your token that, hey, I'm going to give you this during our game at some point.
And what's also I think because I don't believe that it's that hard, because I know for the first few sets, I know at least 1.0, 1.5. I think even up to BT4 and BT5, we used to get token memory gauges that came in booster packs. So why can't we get Diaboromon tokens,
and then you could give us nice
tokens.
art ones in our event packs or in our local store participation packs or whatever.
Just make tokens more accessible.
Have at least one print of every token that can be made in the game. There's not that. I can count them on my hands. There's not that many.
Can you count them on your hands?
Well, I don't know them all, but there's less than 10 is what I'm saying. There's probably less than 5.
I thought you were gonna list them off. I was like, I don't know if I can list them all off.
I don't know them all. I mean, there's one card that makes 2 different ones.
True. The Goldramon.
Yeah. All right. I think that's what ruling I would change, and I'm sorry that nobody else cares about this, but that's my rant. Is there a ruling you would change?
Oh, mine was I know it was a while ago. Mine was the DP minus. Okay, yeah. It was the DP minus should trigger if deleted by an effects clause.
Yeah, we would have to change that. Would, but the problem with, because you would prevent the deletion, but you would still be a 0 power.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's fine to have DP minus be something that gets around that, because there are cards with protection from DP minus.
True.
like Machine.
Machine.
I think there's not enough cards, maybe, because we're getting more things that can't be returned to hand or deck. Now we're starting to get things that just say can't leave the battle area. DP minus still gets around that, of course. You know, so I think we're probably just in the future going to see more things that DP can't be minused.
I believe it.
Yeah. All right, let's get on to the next question. Coming from everywhere, in parentheses, Sidian. So with BT17 Diaboromon archetype coming with the first official alternate win con, Clock of the End, that isn't milling your opponent, because that is a win con alternate, but not officially. What are your thoughts on alternate win cons in this card game? Alternate win cons in this context, meaning, yeah, we know what it means. Yeah, things that say, hey, if this happens, you win the game. I love alternate win cons. I mean, again, I've played a lot of Magic. There's a lot of those in Magic where it's if blah, 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 you win the game. There's even one in One Piece. One Piece in set 3 had a leader that said, if your deck has no cards, instead of losing, you win. Which, you know, I love alternate win cons, but the issue comes down sometimes to balancing.
Yeah.
Clock at the End is very balanced because if you can trigger Clock at the End, you probably can just swing 6 times.
Yeah, it might be a little too balanced.
You know, well, so I mean, it's like, okay, I don't care about if you have aces. I don't care if you have blockers. I have hypothetical, potentially lethal on board. I win. I think that's really cool. I think that's a good way to do it for that deck.
Yeah.
I would love to see more. I do not know what they would be. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah. I think the issue is I can't imagine a lot of like scenarios lore wise where it would matter. The only ones I could think of is like Alfmon or Yukon with his like time manipulation. That could be something of like end of your turn if your Alfmon has like 10 Digivolution Sorcerer or something crazy like that, you win the game. Stuff like that.
I don't know if we'd see that on Alphamon, but maybe.
But like
But a deck that does that would be really cool. Like I think if anything does that, it would be Galactimon.
Galactimon, that's a good one.
If this has 15 or 20 Snatchmons, something like that, that'd be really cool.
I think because that's like the like Jacob was saying, the idea is that like your alternate win cons have to be like, you know, you have to like work to achieve them, but take a little bit to like set up or take a little bit to actually accomplish, not just like, you know, Exodia, I have all 5 pieces, I win. But like I think for Digimon, it's gonna have to do with like lore wise. I think like Moon Millenniumon would have been a good one to potentially do.
I agree.
The other one too would have been the I don't remember what Paladin mode beats Zed Millenniumon in the lore. It might be Ancient Paladin mode.
I don't know.
That's definitely a Jesse question, but I think that like that'd be one of like you know, assemble these things to be able to like make a win out of it. So the Susanomon would have been another good like and the Susano Ace is kind of an alternate win con just because it like immediately wins you the game. But like Susano would have been a good one of if you have like all of the Tamers, maybe you win. Something like that.
I would like to see maybe something like maybe in a Galamon deck, that way maybe it'd finally be playable. Have like their Crimson mode, when it attacks, it trashes 1 security. And it just says, if this effect trashed their last security, you win the game or something like that. Because effectively, it's the same of effectively, it would still win, but if they, you know, block or ace, you wouldn't. But so like, it still requires, you know, you have to get through their 4 security, trash 1 win. Maybe that would be too broken. Maybe it would be fair and balanced. I don't know. We'd have to test it. But like something like that, or something like, as you mentioned, something's kind of almost are alternate win cons when it comes to like alternate play styles.
Yeah.
Like D Reaper, if you have 10 under it and you have Reaper, you probably win. Maybe not now with aces.
Maybe not now with aces.
But that effectively was the win con. So if they just replaced Reaper with a card that said, if you have 20 searchers under your mother, win. It's effectively the same deck, same pacing, same speed, and maybe not 20. But now there's less counterplay involved, which can be obviously good for the player playing it, maybe bad for everyone else. I don't know.
I think overall we like alternate win cons. Bandai give us more alternate win cons,
but make sure they're balanced.
Make sure they're balanced. Make sure they're fun to play.
Yeah. Now, if you ever give us one that says if your deck's empty and you win and it goes in a Beelzebub deck, why would you do that? You know?
I think if you're gonna do that, they might as well also unban EX2 Imon. Just
Yeah.
unleash the whole thing.
Turn 2. Yeah, here we go. All right, next question. This comes from, all right, I'm sorry. I think my Discord puts itself in streamer mode when I'm recording. So your name's not showing. It just says T. So whoever T is, I'm sorry I cannot shout you out. But so it starts off with, I forgot about my convoluted question. Okay, so this is a question we, I think, answered last week, and he's clarifying.
Yeah, that's clarifying the...
Yeah. So let's see. My example would be Gomon and Joe. Oh, this is for the what Tamer and Digimon partner for an EX set question. Do you have any ideas?
I mean,
I don't have any new ideas.
I'm biased. It's going to be Patamon and TK.
That's fair. That's fair. But there's just so many Patamon TKs out there. It better not be a Gammamon. Or a Pulsemon. I'm tired of those guys. But
Pulsemon's cool.
He's all right, but he's on every training.
I think you could do, I know it gets a lot of support, but you could do Vmon because you have Imperial and you have Full Force.
I think if they gave us a Vmon in a different color, so not red, not purple, so I guess yellow. Is that the only color left? But then you're still playing Magnamon.
Well, I think the idea is that like you have an EX set that like just boosts like one like big like archetype or like one big like play style.
Nah, I want a new archetype.
I think Vmon would be interesting because you could do Magnamon, Imperial, and
I want here's my answer. I want maybe I'm totally forgetting the question at this point. I want a Gabu mat for green. Yeah, I want some kind of like Garurumon in green. It can be like Zeed Garurumon maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Once again, probably didn't answer your question, so I'm sorry. All right. Last question we have today. If you guys, this is from Gara3221WC. If you guys could incorporate the crest into the game, how would you do it as a new mechanic or simply new options, and what would their effects be? Simple answer would be options with delay effects. It would be something like play it, warp digivolve, and then maybe a delay effect or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it could also be a new card type, which we have yet to see added to the game, and that would be cool. I have no idea what that would be.
So I've been thinking about this question for a lot, actually. This is the one that I was excited to answer this week. I like the idea of a new card type called like Digivices, or like we said, like call them crests, and its card type being a Digivice. And so my original thought pattern for this is one of the games I play a lot is Flesh and Blood. And Flesh and Blood, for a lot of the sets, we get these things called gems, which are fables. They are like they're extremely low pull rate, but they're only usable for resources. But they have some like typically strong effect that goes into them. So for me, I think the idea for my idea here for Digivices, well, they would be special cards that you can only play if you have the named Tamer in play. So for me, and a really good example would be the options that we got in BT 1.0, like Mimi's A Whole New World, Patamon's like Tragic End or whatever. These would play a lot similar. So if, like for TK, you would have the Crest of Hope, which it would say that like you can only play this card if you control a TK Takashi, and it would go underneath your TK as an inherited, and by activating the effect, so like it would say like it would cost 3. It would say place this under one of your TKs.
Real quick, I like where this is going, but this literally just sounds like an option.
Well, so my idea here is that it can't. You can only play one of in your deck.
But that'd just be an option with rule. Your deck can only contain one.
That's fair.
And then it would have an inheritable, which we've already seen.
I think the goal I'm trying to pitch here.
No, I'm all for this. I like where this is going.
It would be like an artifact for your Tamer, and it would make some effect happen on the board, and then it would give your Tamer a like sitting static effect of like all turns.
All turns when you digivolve, you can suspend to reduce the cost by 1. Something like that. Yeah. Or like a static, buff your security by 1. Remember those like 2-cost Tamers we had way back when? And the TK was just all your security get plus 1.
Get +2.
And then we had the Sora, which was your red Digimon get +1 on your turn.
Yeah.
Turning those into the crests could be pretty cool if it like tucked it under. But it would have to, I don't know, maybe not limit it by saying only play this if you have. It would just say tuck it under a tamer, and it wouldn't say inheritable. It would just say like if this is under your tamer, you get effect, and it has to be the name tamer or whatever. The reason it can't say inheritable is what happens if you hybrid.
Well, so my envision here, right, is we're going off Crest of Hope with TK. It tucks under TK. Your Patamon gets to Digivolve into Angemon for free, and then you get to recover one or something crazy like that. I'm just obviously this card's super unbalanced, but so it's like tuck under your TK. Your Patamon gets to Digivolve into Angemon for free, recover one, and then it would say the inheritable would say while this is under a TK Takashi Tamer, all of your security Digimon get +4 or something like that. Like effects that like, because like the whole point if we're designing crest cards is that they would like be specific to the like rookie and the tamer, and then because that's the idea is like I wouldn't want like yellow hybrid to be able to play it, and like all of a sudden they have a Zoe with a like a Sophimon, and their security gets +8, and you're like, yeah, well, I'm dying. I swing into that security.
Yeah, I'm down for something like that to exist. That'd be cool.
I think we have plenty of like the game has plenty, like it has a large enough card pool that I think we're in the world to be able to introduce a new design, like a new design type.
We just did
Aces, which came on BT. I think 14.
My
started X.
My honest prediction, I think next thing we get, like for a new thing, it's not really new, but a new thing. I think we're going to see Ace hybrids.
Ace hybrids
blast onto a tamer.
Oh, it's going to be so
annoying. We got Ace, then we got DNA, blast DNA. I think next we're going to see blast Digivolve on a tamer.
That'd be interesting.
Or we're going to see some like options that use on opponent's turn, but I don't know how they're going to figure that one out.
That was the other thing that I was going to say was like options that like trigger like when your opponents do stuff.
Yeah, I like how we're getting more delay effects where it's not just memory boost. Now we're getting like biting crush, like opponent's turn, this happens, do thing. I do like how we're seeing more of that stuff. I like that. Keep that coming.
It's healthy to be able to have interaction in your opponent's turn. So decks aren't just able to like.
It's healthy, but it also hopefully doesn't go too far.
Yeah, definitely needs to be done in a way that doesn't produce really stale gameplay.
Right. All right. Well, that's our last question in the Q&A for this week. So post us some more. We'll get to them next week for that Q&A for our Tamer Talks.
Yeah. Kind of the segment of the pod that is tried and true for a lot of them. Jacob, what's your card of the week this week?
I have been struggling to pick one. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I kind of feel like with this newest set, I've just been playing a lot of the Fenry Tachi Mikazuchi and/or looking forward to EX-7. But last week at locals, because I had won the week before with the Fenry deck, I was like, all right, I'm gonna play something different. What do I have? And I had my Mummy Loop deck. And it is still, as I mentioned, I think already in this podcast, it is a very fun deck. So I think I have to pick a card out of this. And when we originally found the deck list, or somebody turned me onto the deck, it was either you or Basil. I don't quite remember. It might have been Justin. I think it was Justin. The list had Cherubimon. Yeah, shout out Justin. The list had a Cherubimon as one of the spots, and like Myotismon, which is there for the flavor, I think. And the Cherubi was cool because you'd have a bunch of Tamers to do your effects. It would die. You'd play out like 5 Ukomons, turn them sideways, whatever. But then we transitioned the deck to be more consistent because the deck fills up trash so quickly. And what better way to capitalize on that than with Beelzemon X Antibody? We have not really seen this anywhere outside of Beelzemon decks that I'm aware of, but when Digivolving, if on top of a Beelzemon or X Antibody and Source or whatever, trash, 1 scary for every 10. I have gotten so many games where it's like, Uko swing, rookie swings, whatever, you get them down to like 2 or 3 security. And then, I just combo off a bunch, have a huge trash, and I go, all right, level 5, Evo to Beelzemon, I have Rush, Tech X Antibody, swing, Beelz X, trash check, win.
Gotcha.
Pretty cool. That's my alternate win con. I mean, what do you got?
I like it. So I've been playing a lot of Magna Hybrid, because it's been a deck I've been working on, you know, combining the might of Magnamon X Antibody with the just broken cards of Imperial Dramon. And the card that I've been playing that I actually have been super impressed by every time I get to play it is the BT12 Dino Beamon.
Okay.
It says when DNAing, it like taps something, and then it gets plus 3k and can attack a Digimon. And then it's inherited, says your turn once per turn. When this Digimon that is either Imperial or has free and trait deletes an opponent's Digimon in battle, trash security. So the deck concept is like trying to like use the Paildramons and like the Imperial on bottom end to like stun the board and play aggressive, but then we have this Magnamon X Antibody that we can go to that just like tears house. So being able to like set up Dino B with the Stingmon underneath that gives Pearson, and then have Magnamon X Antibody, all of a sudden I get to swing into your Digimon, trash the top card of your security, letting me unsuspend, pierce for one check at 15k, immune to everything, and then swing into something else and pierce for another check.
So do you do this with the X Antibody option? Because the effect lets you attack, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you like text X Antibody DNA?
I don't play the X Antibody option, actually.
Okay.
Return of the Protogenitor is it lets you digivolve into a free and trait or Imperial Dramon in name. So a lot of times it's DNA to Dino B. I gain my 2 memory off the Sting and the Daikon. Return lets me go into Magnamon for free, and then I swing over stuff to clear board. It's super cool. But like the Dino B is just like a really cool card, and like it's one of those cards. I love getting to play cards and having your opponent go, "What does that card do?" Or I've never seen that card before, because it's a rare from BT12.
It came out and people didn't play when it came out. They just doubled down on Paildramons. They were like starter deck Pale, new Pale.
Paildramon's so cool. Yeah. But yeah, Dino B's super cool, and he just like he's the card that I've like gotten to like it allows the deck to express so much more, just with all of its effects.
It sounds like this. I missed set 3. I just totally cut you off. I'm so sorry. But remember OG Dino B with just jamming piercing?
I love that card. Yeah. That card's so cool.
I'm sorry. Go back to what we were talking about.
I used to so like for some players that don't know, a long time ago there was a very small event. It was I think it was like an Ultimate Cup, or it wasn't. I don't think it was a regional, but I think it was an Ultimate Cup. But we got to play with a sideboard.
Oh, okay.
It was in BT7. We got to play with a 5-card sideboard, and so the deck that I was playing, it was Blue Hybrid, because at the time it was the best deck. Is the best deck in the format. However, my list played 3 copies of the BT3 Shakomon, which was it's a yellow card, but your turn is also treated as blue, and it gives like stuff security -1. And then I played 2 copies of Dynasmon from BT6.
I hate that card
because it like Blue Hybrid couldn't actually kill you through a Dynasmon because of the whenever a card gets removed, recover 1.
To this day, that Dynasmon is my least favorite card.
But like, so Blue Hybrid at the time had a problem where it was realistically only doing 1 check a turn. So it didn't matter if they were freezing this Dynasmon. They couldn't realistically bounce the Dynasmon. So it just sat there and allowed me to stall until I could win. But my sideboard consisted of swapping out the yellow package for 3 of the Dino Bs and 2 of the BT3 Secret Rare Imperial Dramon Dragon Mode, the green version.
Unsuspend when digivolving?
No, it has piercing, and once per turn when you swing into something, you get to unsuspend.
Yeah.
So I'd bring in but like more specifically the Dino B, I just really enjoyed, and I'd bring that in against like non-blue hybrid decks, and it was super. Anyways, that Dino B is super cool. The BT12 Dino B is also super cool.
Yeah.
And that's my card of the week.
Good choice. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. It's been a wonderful time. I think our episode's a little longer than usual. Sorry about that, but not in a bad way. Keep those Q&As coming. If you're not in our Discord, hop on in, hit us up, and stay awesome.